Hello, everyone. Today we have a second episode of Politico show on Lions Wire. And today's guest is, as always, Ilya Levkov, a world-renowned political scientist. Today's topic is going to be Palestinian guerrilla armies, and our time frame for discussion is going to be 1964 to today's date, 2024. Now, Ilya, when I cross the anti-Israeli, pro-Palestinian protesters, I'm gonna start with that, in Manhattan, and I sometimes stop by and talk to them. I find that they're completely and entirely clueless, most of them, as to the history of what Fatah, PLO, and Hamas is. They do sincerely, most of them believe that when we talk about Israeli occupation, we really talk about the occupation of West Bank and Gaza. Here is the problem. The PLO was formed in 1964, 3 years prior to Israel taking of West Bank and Gaza. However, PLO was already declaring its fight against Israel and Israeli occupation. Would you please start off commenting on that?
Yeah. Well, my first advice, don't stop and talk to them because you will not convince. No,
obviously, I'm certainly not expecting to change their opinion. I'm just curious as to where they stand and what sort of intellect is there behind that process.
Under zero, and you will never convince because they believe, and the belief is both anti-intellectual and deeply religious. Your chances to convert them or to enlighten them are next to the absolute zero.
Yeah, I know that.
So I don't do it. I'm listening. I'm bystander. I'm learning. Yes, I agree with you that it's more so tragic. But let's start. We know precisely when the PLO was born, by who was in this maternity chamber, and what were the goals, and who were the puppet masters. They're precisely written by Lieutenant General, head of the counterintelligence of Romania. And he was, in a way, put in charge by the KGB to create this so-called this artificial baby, who for the first time also gave them a content. The content was there is a Palestinian nation. Nobody before that knew if it is a Palestinian nation. If you might remember and enjoy the old joke, 50s, in 1950s, in Hungary, they found the bones and they were not sure, is it Attila the Hun or not? They sent it to Moscow. It came back. All the bones were broken. Says, yes, it's Attila. He confessed. So you understand the world we are living.
Well, let me ask you a quick question. Palestinian Arabs are, in terms of their DNA makeup, they're identical to people living in Jordan and identical to people living in Egypt. Is that correct or not?
Not, I shall tell you. In Gaza, people, first of all, it's a conglomerate. That area in the 40s was called, after Sykes-Picot in 1923, I don't want to drag you into the history, but it was called the Southern Syria. And Syria looks on Lebanon and on Israel as a southern Syria. People came there from Lebanon, came especially Druses and Arabs, And the point when the big so-called migration of Arabs to Palestine started, because, you know why? Because of you. You know why? Because of
Because,
you.
why?
You as not personal, as the Russian Jews.
Yes,
What
yeah.
what did Russian Jews did? You know, besides the Aliyah 1, 2, 3 from 1982 after pogroms and all that, that we
They
know.
started
But
building economy.
no.
No.
A specific one element, one instrument. They brought a pump which could draw the swaths of that were filled with malaria and planted eucalyptuses, which absorb a lot of water. And on the other hand, the same pump could irrigate this dead land, which was so succinctly described by Mark Twain. You understand? He
Yes.
saw those animals looking at people they didn't see for thousands of years, you know, beautifully and dramatic. So then became the influx of Arabs into the area that later on always was called Palestine, not always, after the Romans.
Romans, yeah.
Yeah, they wanted to erase the people, erase the
The Jewish
country,
character of the. It was right after Titus. It was Judean War, right?
and
I believe.
erase the land that was uprooting. It was really so called. It could be called at least a historical genocide. They didn't want that there would be any sign to the Jews that ever lived there, had a kingdoms, had the temple twice, you know, and all that, all those attributes of a state, not only of peoplehood, but of a state. And we have plenty of coins, the archaeological element to support the land, besides the Bible. Let's leave Bible aside. Not everybody must, even Jews, many Jews are non-religious, they don't accept, let's say, what's written in the Bible as a guidance light to their contemporary political perceptions. So, besides this, there are plenty, and there are books, archaeological
Findings.
and items that prove beyond any doubt that indeed this land was tilted by the 12 tribes of Israel. And interesting, few know, let's say, one of the main areas were the Golan Heights. There were also tribes, theoretically, that they received the name. They were east of the Jordan River, you understand? Therefore, the idea of creating, dissecting later on the original plan of Palestine actually included Palestine and Jordan, or as Churchill said, it was a great Sunday morning ideas when they decided to create Transjordan and give it to one of the sons of Dawood and make a peace between the Arab tribes.
Yeah.
But let's go back. Let's try to follow what we promised our listeners and talk about the guerrillas, because the concept of it was concocted by the KGB. It was within a framework of non-aligned political movements of states. This was the idea of state. Therefore, in order to call, to tight it, to nail it to this movement, they had to invent peoplehood. And this is how the peoplehood, Palestinians, came to be alive and viable to some
They
extent.
became an identity that didn't exist before. That's what we are saying, basically.
it became a spearhead of Arabs who said, no, 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 in 47, we don't want half of Palestine.
We
No,
want
in
all of it.
it's not in 56 and not in 68, when they said no, 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 three no in Sudan, not recognition, not negotiation, and never deal. Absolute. So that was a culture of absolute negations. Arabs had this notion. When it started, the KGB began their professional and sly, extremely sly, and I don't want to use the word moral, but of course, anti-moral. And they decided to go around and do all this not by their hands. Not to do in Palestine, not by their hands, as a matter of fact. It's not a new game. As a matter of fact, I published a book on this topic, which will not talk to this, but that was Stalin's gambit for the state of Israel.
Yeah.
And thereafter, there were other items that they did, let's say, they helped Israel, not directly, but via Czechoslovakia. You understand? So they utilized countries, others, and they were by themselves directly involved in. The book by Israel is very, very interesting, and it's Russian spying in Palestine before 48 and thereafter, should be translated into English, actually. So, therefore, they decided to assign it to Romania. For some reason, especially because they knew Romanians are sly and they can be manipulated, and one of the old historical lines assigned to Stalin, who said Romanians are not nationality, it's a profession. So,
okay.
Therefore, indeed, later on, as a matter of fact, numerous hundred thousands of dollars were paid to Ceausescu via Israel and Jewish sources for each person who allowed to emigrate to Israel. Before the Six-Day War and after. And they were the only who retained the diplomatic relations with Israel. Sure, with the consent the Soviet Union, so they would like to have an absolute united front against Israel. But
so, Ilya, so the Romanian security service kicks in to help to create or orchestrate creation of PLO, correct?
Well, no, roll up the sleeves and create it, not to orchestrate. They themselves, yes, they did it also with Stasi of East Germany, and even brought Palestinians there. But that person, personally, Lieutenant General Ion Patsepa, who wrote 2 books, actually 3 books, but the main one is The Red Horizons, which precisely, he would get the money from the KGB, he would give it into the hand of Arafat. He would get an aeroplane from Moscow and send an aeroplane to Arafat where he did it, uniforms, documents, money, and other, including weapons in small quantities. They were given directly
to Arafat.
By him, to Arafat. And he hundreds of hours, and they're very the book must be read, it's in English and people should find it.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about it on one of our episodes. Go ahead.
Listen, this is an interesting systematic coverage. It's practically our first lecture on that issue, and first lecture can never cover everything or to be the best one. Therefore, that the testing of the instrument of hostages and terrorism began in July 1968. 1968, and various groups, I don't want to go through them, they had hijacked about, let me look at it, 6 airplanes. Mainly Israeli airplanes have been hijacked. And of course, the most famous, later on we will know, it was not, once again, the PLO, but one of their offsprings, where it was in 1976, of course.
Black October.
Yeah, this we got several, 3, 4 movies, and an interesting thing. However, another act once again said what they realized they must have their notions. It was concocted in Moscow, has to have bones, but it needs some flesh on top of it. Therefore, they needed to have actions regardless of results, so they will dominate the evening news and the newspapers. And therefore, this action against the Israeli athletes in 72, and very, very documentary, most interesting. Well, there are 3 movies, and all of them are diverted from the essence of
What was happening? Yep.
One was extremely, but one was, 2 were pro-Israelis, and one the American with the most famous. Oh, what's his name?
Steven Spielberg's movie.
Spielberg, yes. Steven Spielberg made this movie 20 years after I translated the book Vengeance. Again, get this book and read it, because this is based upon the testimony of the head of the Israeli commander, which functioned in Europe, Africa, and other states, where they had a list of people that had to be
Eliminated.
And just for you, look at this. This how I decided to have a picture of Vengeance in Russian, by the way, with a direct line, just not to beleaguer you, which goes from here into the eye of
Yeah,
the
actually, right now the book is somewhat out of focus.
Yeah.
Book
By
is
the way, it's also, I want to tell you the destiny of this book. This book was in a way suppressed in American press because it came out during the reign of President Ronald Reagan. And he said, praised it. And when he praised it, of course, the media had to
downplay.
And therefore this was wrong. However, I had another case with Ronald Reagan, which made one of the books extremely popular. So you know which one?
What was it?
The Hunt for Red October by Tom Clancy.
Really?
Yes, and you know why it happened? Give you a human element. Somebody, Reagan read and said, it's a great book. It's really something out of this world. And a friend who had it in PR and political PR and all that wanted to send it to his friend in Brazil. However, he wanted to save money on the shipping. So he knew a woman who said, flying to Brazil, I said, would you take the book to my friend? Listen, chance. And this woman said, fine, I'll do it gladly. But she began to read it. And she was taken by the book. And she was in a PR, she realized, and this book actually became a bestseller. And I must brag a little bit. I knew Tom Clancy told me, I knew him and was at his house, that my edition was the best. One of the reasons, not made clearly, the cover, everything. including even the text I did in navy blue.
I see. All
So
right.
I had both with my authors. I had different reactions uh, from Ronald Reagan. One gave positive, the other one was negative.
Yeah, Ilya,
So
we will definitely do a few sessions, just talk about some of the books. And actually, I have people asking about specific stories, specific books that you've published. And maybe we can do a show on them separately. But going back to our conversation on PLO and, yep.
I want to come. Suddenly, the Palestinians, and there are so many organizations. I don't want to confuse you. There were 6, 7 organizations. Palestine Communist Party. You know what organization? Palestinian Communist Party, PCP, Constitution, the also Constitution, Liberation Front of Palestine, Liberation Army, the National Salvation Front, Red Crescent, Palestinian Red Crescent, Palestinian National Council, Palestinian National Covenant.
Yeah, there are plenty of them that sprung up. There are plenty of them that sprung up, but it was mostly 60s.
2 points. 2 points. First of all, Chapter 9 of the Covenant. Do I have it here? Yeah, here it is. Quote, Article 9 of the Covenant of the PLO. Armed struggle is the only way to liberate Palestine. That this is the overall strategy and not merely a tactic.
Right. So here, Ilya, again, going back to my original question, I just want to highlight this and sort of shed light on very specific issue. Many people believe that when Palestinians talk about occupation and fight against occupation, they talk about West Bank and Gaza. But West Bank and Gaza came under Israeli control in 1967. But we know that PLO was created with its charter calling for destruction of Israel and occupation in 1964, right? So how do we reconcile that? Palestinian...
Well, in the Middle East, you are not looking for reconciliation if it's a real thing. You say it's Fata Morgana. I can give you many things and stories about this. But however, let's come to the nitty-gritty. Nitty-gritty is that Palestinians realize how to gather and galvanize information media. A. B. They also created a certain element which is tradable. And this was always the hostages. The hostages and the Palestinian thing, it's not only shooting, killing, and think of that type. However, they also, it became a normal thing that people are traded, taken and traded. Let me give you 2 interesting examples. Recently, it was discovered that a person that was killed, it was simply a day or 2 ago, that a person that was killed in Be'eri, the northern kibbutz, was killed there in a fight with those marauders that came, Hamas, and taken dead as a hostage. After 3 months, it was discovered. They didn't know. They knew that he was taken, so they assumed
that he was probably alive if he was taken.
And there are several of them. People were taken dead in order to trade. Another example, very interesting, also very recent, they knew and found the body of an Israeli soldier, which was without a head. So Israeli took them almost 2 months during this war, from October 7, to find it. You know what? They found his head. It was in Gaza. It was in a store selling ice cream was held in the freezer of the ice cream where they were keeping it, and it was announced a sale. The price of the head for Israeli soldier was $10,000. Do you understand the mentality of people? That they're traders. They're traders from ancient times. I don't want to go into this, but most of the African slaves were sold to the white people by the by Arabs. But let's keep it aside. But just imagine to have this notion that you can you cut his head and somebody will have it in his possession, said, you know what? I have the head of an Israeli soldier. Now, can you deal with such people? Can you live in the shadow of such people?
No, absolutely not. These are savages. They're not people.
And yet, today in Israel, close to 30% are ready to embark on this path. What is the path? There are two goals: destroy Hamas and release or obtain the hostages. Those are parallel but not compatible, because either you stop one and deal with the other, or vice versa. So some say we have to they the movement, big movement. I participated 2 weeks ago at this movement at the UN Plaza, participated. I came to interview. And this is at any price, immediately now, let's exchange the hostages. That is, this what the Israelis began to talk. This what deal is being discussed daily in numerous Israeli TV
Shows.
talk shows, and all that daily. You understand? The other part says, hold a second. When you say at any price, let's stop. Please name the price that you are ready to pay for 136 Israelis. Hopefully, set all of them alive. And one of them just last week became 1 year old. Do you understand? A baby. So now because those movements are camouflaged in a way. They want two things: to trade at any price, stop the war. They said we can always win and destroy Hamas, but at what price? It is they're asking 136 to be released, but Israel will have to pay maybe 500 dead. When they stop, provide Hamas with everything what they want, they become a hero. The Israeli actually were pushed to the brink of self-destruction, precisely. The other cover-up for that situation and this approach is elections now. Do you understand? They're saying the present government in Israel is not kosher. They have a problem with Bibi Netanyahu. They became crazy, almost like irrational, I just received.
This is Lapid's group, right? This is everyone who stands behind.
Peace, not peace. They're variety. They call themselves Kaplans. Then the mothers for the release of this. I just received 20 minutes ago, said somebody by the name Dayan, last name Dayan. I forgot her, not Ruth Dayan.
Yeah,
somebody received a document which proves beyond the shadow of a doubt that Netanyahu betrayed Israel. I don't know yet. I will try to get it today, at least the accusation and at least the title or what's this document. But the big. Another interesting development, again, in this citizen war, which did not end. Not for a moment. It's called projection, movement 2024. This is a movement of two people. I listened to them for half an hour. They served for about 90 days almost in Gaza, both of them. One of them left, the other one right, but they are reservists. This is a movement of reservists because the reservists suddenly realized the situation that Israel is in, and at the same time, what is the main question and existence of Israel. That is, are we going to rely on the United Nations, on the Uncle Sam and present president, or the security of Israel must be exclusively
Israel's business? Yeah. Yep. Miran.
Okay, look at this. One of the tricks of this Desinformatia, which is the title of the second book of Patsepa, and I know it from, I don't know, 40, 50 years, somebody else published a book with the same title in general about Russian disinformation attitude, is, look at this, when they created those various Palestinian movement. First of all, some of them were headed by intellectuals, European intellectuals. They were professors, publishers.
But they were Palestinians, right, of Palestinian origin.
Yeah, Palestinian. The other thing was that they decided every time they split their organization. Each organization, Hamas, Amal, Hezbollah, Houthis, and all that, they said, they would always say, it's a military wing. We heard it 1,000 times. I have never heard how come that is a military wing and political wing of the Hamas or PLO are not responsible. You understand? It's incredible to accept it, because it's like in Nazi Germany, you know. Oh, the Wehrmacht, the SS are responsible, but the political head is not responsible. You understand?
Yeah.
Or in Stalin, communism. Oh, those are some armies, clashes, and God knows what, but the political is not. They actually talked us, the West, into said in each organization they have those Palestinians have a good guys and the bad guys.
Right. So the militant part and the political, yeah.
And we have to support the good guys that they will suppress their bad guys. You understand? It's so transparent.
Let me ask you a very direct question. What part Israel played in creation of Hamas? Israel did play part in creation of Hamas, and I think they sponsored, if I'm not mistaken, in the beginning.
I wouldn't say it's sponsored. Look at it. Hamas, first of all, it's a religious organization. It's not a political. Therefore, they distinguish themselves. Their motto, they are saving Allah Akbar. This is the top of the top of the top. By the way, most of the people don't know about the heaven and what is being promised in heaven. We all know that they have those 72 huris, beautiful women, and actually from which the word whore is derived. However, in addition to those 72, this Shahid who killed Israelis and became the holy Shahid, he has the right to bring into heaven 72 members of his family. It's a chain reaction. It's like a, Monte Carlo. It's unbelievable.
They get allocation of visas to the right place in heaven.
You can get into heaven if you sacrifice one of your sons. And the son is what? And in addition, until they get to heaven, They are going. They are being paid by the PLO. All those shaheeds that were killing Israelis, receiving amount money that comes from European and Arab sources.
Well, that's on
We know
PLO
the
side. Well, Hamas also, right?
yes, oh yes, yes. There is a special book actually, the distribution, the management, kind of the banking part of all that. It's called Harpoon. Find this book. It's in English. I want to say to you a little bit more thing. One of the books that I actually uh, helped to be published. It's by my old friend Harris Schoenberg. He passed away. He was the head of the anti Bnei Brit international thing. It's called a mandate for terror. It's a Bible. It's a Bible about Palestinians, what they did in the United Nations. And let me just read to you one. Here are the origins. They said, this I read you, the article 9 about this. It's amazing. Let's say all the shticks, the color of the chair when Arafat appeared in the United Nations. Was he in the military uniform or not civil? Did he have his gun with him? By the way, the shtick even to offer to show that you know how to convince the world that he is a nice person. You know what they did? They staged his speech in the United Nations, ended. He said, look, I have a gun in one hand. I have an olive branch. And he showed the olive branch. Please don't let my hand with the olive hand to be fallen. You understand? It was a shtick, what they call it, a theatrical thing.
Yeah.
And that's and this book is full of such minute but illuminating, and it received the prize of Neighborhood Book of the Year, but still, it's 560 pages, but I very advise, you have to read it. You have to read it. There is a saying, how to find 10 best book, 10 best book to become a wise man. You know what the answer is? It's very simple. In order to find 10 best books that will make me a wise man, you have to read 10,000 books.
Yeah.
Those 10 books.
Understood. Understandable.
One thing. Look at this. We're talking now about anti-Semitism, etc.
Ilya, just one small thing. Because your background is out of focus, when you show a book, it's mostly out of focus. You'll need to fix your Skype.
Is it bit like this?
Out of focus. Like that. This is better. If it's on your if you're in the background, it's in focus.
All right, got it. If I'm in the background, okay. The book is the UN Game. It's a very interesting book. It's written by an American who was received in the Secretariat. It's only the Secretariat. And there was the subtitle of the book, A Memoir of Incompetence, Corruption, Espionage, Anti-Semitism, and Islamic Extremism in the UN Secretariat. It was published 19 years ago. The guy his name is Pedro A. San Juan. He was treated at the United Nations by some bureaucrats, and he had to testify and prove that he is not Jewish. In the United Nations, in Manhattan, this kind of thing was then, that is over 20 years ago. So you understand that United Nations, it really disunites nation rather than
why did he have to testify that he's not Jewish?
Because they wanted so. So he was appointed by President Reagan. He was a presidential appointment from the United States in the Secretariat would be this Pedro. They wanted to make sure that Pedro is not Jewish.
This is ugly.
Have you heard about this? You should read books, as I said. Start reading 10,000 books. Okay.
All right, Ilya, our time is coming. Time is running out.
Yes.
I again going back to the question. Just one. Can we talk about one specific thing? Creation of Hamas. A little bit of history.
Creation of Hamas.
Yes.
Israel did not create it. There were Yassin. They once actually he was I don't remember, but the leader of original people of Hamas was killed by the Israelis. But they played the game. Israelis played. They had no choice. They had to play with Hamas. The similar game was because Hamas versus the PLO. They didn't support, the money was not given. The money is talking as though Israel connected with the money being transferred to Hamas. It is because Israel want to have a control. So he gets the money that comes from Qatar to the PLO. Israel receives it physically, and it gives to the Palestinian authorities. But nowadays, that share of the money that the Palestinian authority would have sent to Hamas being withheld by the Israelis. Part of the money, it's also the taxes that Israel collects from the Palestinians, and then it's being returned to them. That is, it would have been a kind of a solution if people didn't kidnap dead Israeli soldiers and then traded them or cut their hand and put it on auction.
Yeah.
Recent document was unearthed hour and a half ago in Israel.
Sure.
So if I get, we'll talk about this document, and
no
we
problem.
will know what kind of a card, what kind of the fifth ace the anti-Bibi movement has uncovered this time. Au revoir.
Au revoir. Thank you, Leah.